with your own relationship with the familiar and new. Through insight into what might drive these actions, we hope to foster a deeper understanding of the lived experience of ADHD. So that is the director's statement directly from its entry in the Venice competition that's happening. Good luck to them,
Yeah,
and as well as
absolutely.
all the competitors looking for awards. These events are really important for sharing firsthand demos of work that uh, needs a little push over, like I don't think it's the case with this one, since this one is releasing in September. We've got the link. The article just went live on
It did.
uploadvr.com, but there's a link to go and check out the project for yourself over on the Quest store. I think there's a discount as of this recording
There is.
prior to its release. But all of that is just to say this is it's funny that they included it in the title of the collection of the series. So Goliath, the one that you tried previously, Don, had the same moniker
It did.
after the title, Playing with
With
Reality.
reality.
What do
Yeah.
you what did you see in Goliath, and what do you think of that term, playing
You
with
know, I
reality?
I really enjoyed Goliath. Okay, so this is prior to me joining Upload. I reviewed this on my personal channel, and it is one of those. Okay, I love games, but I also love great experiences, and especially something that opens my eyes, my heart to a cause. And Goliath was all of that. It was just a beautiful narrated interactive almost documentary, really opening up our eyes to people with schizophrenia. So in Goliath they were tackling schizophrenia, and now with Impulse we're tackling ADHD. And it's really bringing to light these disorders that sometimes people.
All right. We're going to need confirmation from our commenters that we're live, because your feedback is the only thing that tells us we are
Please
real. We
let
need to
us know.
know that you see us to know that we're real. I think that's how it works when you
I think
broadcast
that
in
is.
VR.
We don't exist unless they tell us that we're
Yeah.
here. So,
Yeah. All right. So I think we've got that confirmation right now. Let's go back. Let's
nope,
rewind
you
it
are
back to
not
the
live.
beginning. No,
Virtual
you're
boys
not
are back.
live.
Okay,
Okay.
now we're back. Uh,
Okay. Daniel Leeper. We don't trust anything Daniel Leeper says. I saw your comment on download, Daniel Leeper, and I you're on thin ice, right? Okay. All right. So I'm just warning you, Daniel Leeper.
oh boy.
Yeah. Um, but I think we might have to clip out the live comments when we go and record this. When we publish this episode afterwards, we're probably gonna have to clip
We
out the
might have
live
to do a little,
commentary
yeah.
just to give a nice fresh start to this episode right after this. So sorry to those live comments that are going to go away. But if you leave anything interesting during this comment in the show, go and add it to the comments after the show so that everyone can follow along
There
and know
you
what
go.
we were talking about, and we can come back. And let's see here.
All right.
Yeah, we're in the quantum
S-
state of both alive and dead. Yes, I like
well,
that. All right. Hello,
second verse,
everyone.
same as the first. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and thanks for giving us your time today for VR Gamescast. I am Ian Hamilton in New York, joined by Don Hopper in Missouri. It is August 27th, 2024, and I'm wearing a Quest 3 headset with V69 software running David Heaney's VR Studios with hand tracking and meta avatars. We'll be back on Thursday with VR Download at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. And thank you so very much to our members and patrons for supporting our work directly. You can become a member at uploadvr.com and find us on your podcast platform of choice. Don, what do we have today?
Well, Ian, as usual, we have another exciting show. In fact, we have a very exciting show today. So, we're going to start out real quick by talking a little bit about the Home of VR mega booth at Gamescom. Then, we're going to premiere a world premiere for the of a trailer for Impulse playing with reality. Next up, after that, we're going to check out the next three worlds in my exploration of VR chat. And then we're going to end it up with the one subject that I'm pretty sure most of our viewers are here today to talk about. And that is our hands on impressions of Batman Arkham Shadow. So,
Yeah,
super exciting.
cool lineup. Yeah, very good lineup here. I want to just talk briefly here about this Gamescom event. So we had Gamescom, just came and went, this big conference in Europe. And I just wanted to bring it up because we've still got a lot of news incoming from Henry Stockdale. We had him on site
Hmm.
in Germany to check out Gamescom, check out all of the demos. But more specifically, this Home of XR mega booth that was there at the conference. Let us know in the comments whether you saw anything come out of this booth, what you thought of it, and I'd be curious what you thought of E3 in comparison to what you've seen come out of Gamescom, because what I'm feeling missing and what I think a lot of the industry is feeling missing is E3. It's
Hmm.
gone. It's been wiped off the map. It's a thing in our past, and now we've got Gamescom at the end of summer here to kind of pick up the slack for building hype for games that are going to release in the back half of the year. Uh, Don, I know I don't need to ask you for a third time today, but I know you didn't go to E3. We
No,
talked about it prior to it, and then we did it in our lead up previous recording that we had to cut
right.
off of this. But E3 gone from the map is a major hole in the landscape, and I know you were really pushing to go to Gamescom. Do you think that it's going to warrant multiple people going there in the future based on what
Absolutely.
you saw come out of the event?
Yeah, I talking to content creator friends, other journalists and press, talking to Henry who was there for us. The event has grown. I mean, and especially now that we have something like the Home of XR Mega Booth. I mean, it was very cool to have. I think we had close to right at about 30 developers all in that one area. So a lot of cover, and I don't see XR, VR, AR, MR, whatever R we're gonna call it next year, uh, going away anytime soon. In fact, I see it growing. So I do see these conferences getting larger. I mean, we over here stateside, obviously we have GDC, huge developer conference, but that's more developer focused, where Gamescom is more just developers getting it out there to the public focused. So yeah, I definitely think that we're going to see that. Earlier, before we had to cut, there was a great comment from Arlen talking about that and how he used to sit there with his friends and watch that on G4 TV. I know we were talking, kind of reminiscing about G4 TV, and eventually hoping that Upload can get to that part where we're actually out there doing live events and live coverage from these game conferences.
Yeah, I've seen Gamertag VR, a long time member of the VR community, knows the ins and outs of good VR games there, and I think that's what has been a problem. I mentioned it previously, but I'll just sort of recap this idea that like VR and the traditional gaming community have had a lot of tension. There's
Yes.
been, you know, if you send a gamer who only knows flat games to go and look at a VR game, they they gotta be clear about looking at it with fresh eyes because they're not as invested in the movement mechanics or how comfortable the game is going to feel compared to other VR games
Hmm.
as you or I might recognize in comparison to all the other stuff on the market. And then you've got big development studios that are still not investing their top teams or their biggest teams in making VR modes for some of their biggest VR games. So you have just sectioned off communities of people that either play, this type of shooter in VR and then a completely different shooter game over on flat screens, or they play completely different types of games in one medium or the other, or they're just completely different groups. It's just, when do we get to this dream future where the biggest AAA, biggest developers on the planet throw their biggest teams after a game that appears both in VR and on flat? Does that ever happen? I don't know at this point.
I
It's
mean, I
been
think
so many years.
eventually it happens. I mean, we're on that arc right now. I mean, we've seen this arc progress over the last 10 years, and I mean, we're going to get into at the end of the show today, we're going to get into a mainstream 2D title making its way into VR. So,
Hmm. Yep. And I'm seeing a gamer tag saying that Trombone Champ wasn't on their radar, but after playing it, it's a lot of fun. Very, very interesting to
I
see
I
that
feel the
game.
same. I
Yeah,
had
emerge.
no aspirations to play Trombone Champ until it came to VR, and now after what I've seen, I can't wait.
Yep,
So,
and yeah, so flat to VR, that was a big moment, and I think that's the theme of this whole conversation and
mhm,
why I wanted to bring it up, right? Flat to VR had a very, very big moment in connection with this home of XR mega booth and this this changing of the times. I think it's very, very important to look at these trends very broadly. You go look at Steam Workshop and all the tools in there to take all the elements that were in the Portal games and then stuff them into VR games if you really wanted to, using all those workshop tools. Like the meshing is happening in so many different places between what happens in VR, what happens on flat, and of course, Flat Out had its big announcement, and
mhm.
then all the games coming from now until the end
Well,
of the
there
year.
there's so much coming in. We are going to have great coverage. Henry was on the floor working it hard. So be looking out for that coverage to start dropping, well, already on the site, and it will continue over the next week or two. So lots of great coverage there. And as Ian does in the beginning of the show, I am just going to throw out a pitch there. Please, if you like our coverage that you see on the site, please consider becoming a member of uploadvr.com to support our work directly and keep us going to conferences like this to bring you great coverage of upcoming VR games.
Gamertag's comment, I think Batman could be the game. Big budgets are really needed to get great
It
results.
could.
With the combo of Quest 3S this year, could be again huge for VR.
Hmm.
And then Mr. Mycelium's comment, flat to VR conversions can feel a little underwhelming unless specifically rebuilt with VR in mind. I think that's true. That feels true as well. But I think also like the bar, the the bar's lowering, or the tools are getting better to make those better experiences with fewer resources. And
No, I
we've
can see that. I mean,
gosh, I mean, Dr. Beef out there and Team Beef have been showing how to do it on the fly.
oh, for years. I mean, since the Gear VR days, and and I'm sorry, it still to me, and maybe that's just a layperson because I'm not a programmer, I'm not a developer. To me, it's magical that we're taking 20-year-old games and giving them hands, giving them 6 degrees of freedom. I mean, this is like whatever Flat to VR, whatever Dr. Beef, bless you guys. You guys are doing great things, and just keep it up
Yeah,
because.
so and Gamertag's follow-up comment, if the sales happen unlike Assassins, more devs will take note. As Batman being the first Quest 3 only game I played, it will
I agree with that.
change expectations for standalone. Um, the That's a really, really interesting comment. I'm curious how how things will fare after this year. I think there's a lot of people that didn't buy the Quest 3 because they knew the Quest 3S was planned. Meta telegraphed its expectations way in advance here.
Mhm,
They sort of put the Quest 2 out to pasture as a low end device. We Upload VR and many other places have been really good about pointing out the difference in power between what you can get out of the chipset in the Quest
it's
3 and the
huge.
Quest 2. And then Meta kind of leaked its roadmap and has been clear this whole time. Developers have held back some of their content from release with Quest 3 because I think Meta has uh this like it's got a reputation now
Mhm,
for low cost leading devices. So when they jumped from what 400 and 300 up to 500 with the Quest 3, I think just a lot of just people watching this space kind of knew on a visceral, subtle level, Meta's probably going to try to return back to that price with more hardware in the future. Well, when you combine all of those things, right, things like Meta finally paying attention to what Apple's doing and responding to it with very quick decisions or quick changes to its operating system to get multitasking nailed down really well, to get HDMI in working, so you've got displays coming in, to bring on those partnerships to get the operating system running on other headsets, to rip the labels off of App Lab, to push a whole bunch more content out in front of people, to get Horizon Worlds running across multiple
mhm.
devices. Like, I just named like 7 things in rapid succession just off the top of my head that Meta has done in the last 6 to 9 months to kind of like rip the rip all of the things slowing it down away from the platform that they've spent so many billions of dollars in creating. And I think you combine that with like Quest 3S launching
Mhm.
at that price that everyone has been waiting for, and you combine all those things, it could be a multiplier that no one is really ready for.
Well, and as we see these Quest 3 exclusives like Batman coming out, I mean, I think Gamertag once again, to call him out again, he says, "I understand Meta struggling to move on from Quest 2. It's their biggest platform, but the XR2 Gen 2 is actually greater than I realized after playing Batman." And it is one of those, and I know we're going to talk a lot more about it, but just kind of a tease, it is one of those games that really shows you the power of the Quest 3 and that souped up headset processor. So, you're not going to be able to pull off anything like that on a Quest 2, even at dumbed down levels. So I think we're finally going to start seeing titles coming out as we approach the holiday season this year and into 2025 that are really going to finally push that market to say, hey, it's time to move on from Quest 2 and shelve them. It is time, and Quest 3S is going to be a nice bridge for that. So,
Yeah, thank you for tuning in, Gamertag. It's wonderful to have you here. Wonderful to have this discussion. And I think we should move on here, but there's right before we do, we should talk about the Valve conversation that's
oh, real
popped
quick,
up
yeah,
in our feed, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't think we've got anything solid to hold on to
not
just
yet.
yet. These things from Valve tend to build hype at various times. I will say that um, Meta built to a very big moment back in 2019. They built to the launch of the Rift S and the original Quest side by side. They were both priced at the same place, and then they launched right around the same time. And Valve was there to answer. I always think
Yep.
of like, uh, I don't know. I hear the trumpets of Lord of the Rings in my head when I think of Valve showing up for that moment when Quest was like, "We're this is our big moment.
Yeah, that was
Quest is
just
our standalone computer," and Valve was like, "You know what? We've actually got our own, and it's got a USB port up on the front if you want to really hack around with it."
yeah.
Um, this is the first moment in 5 years since that I felt Meta really pulling itself together
Mhm.
in preparation for a push as big as that push was back then. So a really, really, really big moment for Meta, and I think our audience, us, we all want to see that Valve. I mean, I'll get into this in the VR download, but I
I
do
was gonna
have
say
to.
you'll.
I have to reference my hacks. I can't not talk
No,
about
you got to. No,
getting a
preach it.
Linux
Preach it.
desktop, right? You have a Linux desktop on Steam. You can have the Steam big screen interface to play all of those great handheld flat games, all the things that run great on Steam Deck, run great on a big flat, big screen mode. And then you've got, of course, the Steam Link VR mode. I've been messing with all of those modes in all of my headsets. It really feels like Valve has prepared itself to pump Steam throughout your home in
Mhm.
every way possible. You can access Steam Link on a Quest headset three different ways if you really wanted to. One of the ways I had it last week was I was logged into my PC using Steam Link VR. Right, I'm in Steam Link full, and then in my hand I had the Steam Deck for a different machine, and I'm playing the device. I've got the controls for it with the Steam Link Steam Flat app right here simultaneously. And technically, all of that is running from a Quest standalone. Well, what would happen if Valve really delivered on that experience of having a desktop, of having the VR experience, of having the gamepad, of having the mouse and keyboard, having it all tracked, right? We all want it. We're all desperate. They've had 5+ years to recognize what computer vision can bring
Mhm.
to the Steam ecosystem. We're all desperate to find out
Yeah,
what
a fully
happens.
fledged spatial computer. I mean, that's what we all want, and I know your experimentation with this over the last couple of weeks has been eye opening, and the fact that we're getting there. But I really think these Deckard rumors are starting to pick up, and I know that's more of a subject for download. I'll let you and David take that on Thursday, but it's getting exciting. But from the gaming perspective, the other Valve rumors that I've been hearing is multiple Half-Life games in development. So just fingers crossed. Half-Life is literally the game that made me a VR gamer. I know I've shared the personal story with you, but spent an entire student loan back in the late 90s to buy a headset that wouldn't have even been considered anything today. But I rigged it all up with an infrasonic head tracker and rode that tram into Black Mesa in the original Half-Life 1 in what we would have called VR back then. And I've always chased that particular dragon of having that experience, being a part of that world, inhabiting City 17. So anytime I can get back into that world, I'm game. So Valve, do your magic, bring it on. Let's get some more VR Half-Life because we need it. Alex is getting a little long in the teeth.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the second
Yes.
subject here, where impulse playing with reality. It's
Yeah, I can't wait for you to tell us about Impulse. I loved their first one, Goliath.
Yeah. So we have a trailer here to show the upload. The article just went up on UploadVR.com. If you want to go read a little bit more about this, I'll read off the director's statement here in a minute. But first, I just want to show off this trailer here for this experience. Not a game in the traditional sense, and I think it's really important that even though this is the Gamescast, we have to recognize that uh, developers, creators of software experiences, the things you experience when you put a headset on, they have a bigger palette available to them. They can let you see from different perspectives. They can simulate experiences directly for you that you may never have or can never have in the physical world, in your own body. And that just, we have to redefine what we think a game to be, what we think playing in VR to be. And experiences like this one, Impact, playing with reality, do that. So let's just give this trailer a quick look,
I can't wait
with
to see it.
voice by Tilda Swinton.
Let's do a thought experiment. A game, if you will. There is a universe of information around you. Without thought, there is only darkness. And even with some thoughts, there is still a lot of darkness. To see where you are, you need to be somewhere else. The chaotic lives of four very different people, all driven to the edge. A precipice.
Yeah, so that is Impulse playing with reality, latest trailer. They're coming very, very soon to Quest headsets. There's a link to that experience in the article on UploadVR.com. We might put one down in the description. I'm not sure
Hmm.
yet. But yeah, this is being greeted by the audience, I think, well. I think they understand what we're getting at here with this particular show, with the idea that you can see from different perspectives a little bit different in VR. I hate to say that sometimes because there's potential to be heavy-handed with different perspectives, right? To show too much. But honestly, like, some of the most impactful VR experiences I've ever tried were the simplest Unity animations
Oh yeah.
with just real audio uh, animating the characters. Like, I could hear real audio behind these simple characters, and just knowing that it was really sourced audio and feeling embodied in VR can have a powerful effect on opening up your mind and showing you new things. So the previous experience, this is a collection coming out from this studio and these developers. The one previous to this is called Goliath.
Yeah,
Uh,
Goliath.
what was Goliath? I understood it had to do with psychosis. Is that right?
I think all of these in the series are tackling neuro divergent or neurological issues. So yes, Goliath that came out last year was the first in the series. It is an Oculus for Good title as well. I thought that was kind of cool, but it was tackling schizophrenia. So where Impulse is tackling ADHD, and I have to say, I covered that one about 11 months ago before I joined Upload. And it was one of those times when I went into it thinking this is going to be some sort of a game. And I came out of it just with a complete open mind, open heart, and a sense of awe and wonder. And it's an amazing mix of just beautiful graphics and amazing storytelling, gorgeous narration from Tilda Swinton, but you're actually kind of learning a little bit about each subject as you play through. So in Goliath, we learned a little bit about schizophrenia and how people deal with that and how it impacts their lives. And in Impulse here, we're going to tackle ADHD, which we know is a huge issue worldwide, and is growing every day. So I love the fact that they're taking real world issues and slightly gamifying them to keep you interested and engaged in the developing story and narrative that you're hearing as you're playing. And of course, I've always loved the what I call the cool, trippy, weird side of VR. And I mean, that's what we got with Goliath. So I'm really looking for more of the same in Impulse.
Yeah, it's one of those ideas that I think has founded a lot of VR companies around 2014 to 2016 as they tried to build up something in the wake of Facebook acquiring
Hmm.
Oculus within I can't remember what they were called previously to being called that, but various companies kind of were founded on this idea that you could show other perspectives and really get personal with their understanding of things. So this experience is going to debut on Quest Store in September. It's in competition at Venice Immersive right now. Uh, it's really important, I think, that we put a highlight. We really try to spotlight these
Oh, I
projects
agree.
that are different, unusual. This is a world premiere for this trailer. We were able to show it here. Thank you for sharing that video with
Thank you.
us and trusting us with it. If you've got any trailers, videos you want to share with us, you can email tips@uploadvr.com. I'm working with Beck out there, who's running the show, to streamline the process so you can tell us about your games. What we've learned is that the core of the issue here is devs out there really have difficulty in kind of communicating what they've been working on. Like
Yeah.
they're so good at making these beautiful projects, but they've got so many ideas like rummaging around in their heads, vying for attention over time that like they sometimes lose sight of, oh, this is why someone should be interested in this project. So we're trying to find ways to be more helpful out there, get people into our showcases, onto Gamescasts, onto maybe even VR download. I don't know. VR
Hmm.
download isn't a really good format for in content discussion. We tend to talk about outside VR industry trends there. So if you'd like to see a trailer or something that you've been working on here on the Gamescast, let us know. You can email Don directly as well. It's don@uploadvr.com. You can
Hmm.
email me directly, ian@uploadvr.com. I will warn you, I'm not great on responding to emails. I do see the emails come in, but the flow of messages incoming is way too darn high. However, things that catch our eye do catch our eye, and we try to call them out and respond to them.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, just DM us, email us. We're everywhere. So it's not hard to find us.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on to your VR chat worlds, your latest VR chat worlds, because this is another one
Yeah.
where you could argue these aren't games, but also they're kind of games.
But
So
in a way they are, but they aren't. And games, educational experiences, to me it's all about the beauty of virtual reality. And so this week I visited three more worlds in VR chat. Now I will say, as we've been discussing, we are actually starting to get to the end of the list of the original suggestions from the community. So please, if you have any more, do keep them coming in. But we're probably starting to ramp this series down just a little bit, where I might start looking at some other social platforms, just to put that out there. But this week, we visited three incredible worlds. So starting off this week, and Beck, if you want to get this video queued up, I visited Mondo Grosso. So Mondo Grosso feels like stepping into a living album cover, right? It's another one of these music visualizer style worlds. And, if you're into electronic music or just want to see something with dynamic visual effects that are perfectly synchronized with music, this is definitely one of the worlds that I would recommend checking out. Then I kind of went and grabbed a coffee at the Cafe Summer Sky. And Cafe Summer Sky is a little bit more of one of the basic worlds, not super overly visual, but it just had a nice, relaxing feel to it. So nice little cafe kind of set above the clouds. You can change it to water if you want, for a little bit of a different outside scene. There's some exploration in there. There's a little bedroom area up in the top that you can kind of go and chill out in. Video player where you can watch, things like Gamescast or VR download. But it's just one of those areas in VR chat that if you want to have a quiet space to maybe get together, have a conversation with a friend, have a virtual cup of coffee, definitely visit Cafe Summer Sky. Now, the last world is literally now one of my all-time favorites in the series, and that is Aquarius. And oh wow. I've visited a lot of very high resolution detailed worlds during this series, but this one takes the cake. So in Aquarius, you're in a massive underwater biome with different rooms and different areas that you can explore, and all of the marine life that you're seeing through the glass is just super high resolution. And if you're on a good PC, and you've got the graphics cranked up, I literally lost myself. Just decided I was going to look out that window for a minute. I looked down at my watch. I had been standing there for like 20 minutes just watching the fish swim, checking out the coral. But it's more than that. There's a lot of education in this experience as well. So there are interactive displays on the walls. There's tablets laying around that you can pick up, and you can actually learn more about what you're seeing. Again, great video player in this, such a relaxing little conversation pit in the main area where you could pull up your favorite weekly podcast on YouTube, or watch a movie from your own library. So I cannot recommend this one enough. And then this one, straight up for you, my friend, lots of VR kitties to pet in Aquarius as well. So
Yeah, pretty incredible looking experience there. It caught my eye the moment you put it out in front of us. It looks just like an outstanding experience. And the people in our audience bring up the common thread when we cover VR
always.
chat, right? We're covering the worlds, and we've actually set up. We signed up for VRChat Plus on
Mhm.
an official UploadVR account to explore what it looks like to set up a private group with private instances that we could just have people in this community go and join and become a member of, and just go into those private instances, because it's really hard to go into VR chat and not encounter the screaming children from the public areas that you don't want to encounter. Like, it's just, if you get fed right into those worlds right from the home spaces inside of both VR chat and Rec Room. And our audience is making a pretty clear case for the idea that I'll go check out these worlds, but just keep me away from
Yeah,
the
exactly.
public spaces. I just want to go check it out privately. And we're trying to set that up using VRChat's own tools. And it's not really easy to have open
It's not.
instances that are only public for a group. It's like a little bubble universe that exists just for that group. Doesn't There's no real flow for it right now, but we are attempting to do it. Um,
And I
uh,
mean, it's not the screaming kids thing is, I mean, come on, we all know this. It's not just VR chat. I mean, we were in Horizon the other day and couldn't
yeah.
go 5 feet without somebody jumping in my face, saying obscenities, just outlandish stuff. So again, we're not promoting platforms here. We're not promoting communities. What we're promoting is the just sheer talent of some of these developers who are putting these amazing worlds that you can go and virtually explore on these platforms. So
So this is going to build. We're not going away from our coverage of VR chat. And just to be clear, these are all PC VR chat worlds. If you go on to these worlds on a Quest, they may not look anything like what you
or may
see
not
in
run at
these
all.
headsets. The other day, I was actually I was messing with one of my setups, and I went into one of these cool worlds where I had a Steam Deck floating up in front of me. I had this giant Steam Deck PC VR version of VRChat floating here, and then my world was the Quest world of VRChat, the Quest edition of VRChat, and it was hysterical because I'm holding this like viewer in front of me, almost like it's an AR like filter for the for this reality that I'm in. And the filter, the Steam Deck version of this world, shows me these incredible. There's like a tank over there. There's an animated tank. Someone is a tank, and it's got all of the animations for a rolling tank. But here in the Quest, if I move down my Steam Deck and look at it over here, there's no one there. There's
Hmm.
an avatar not represented at all in this space, and it's the same darn instance, the same darn world. And that's the that's the problem of VRChat right now. They've got essentially two ecosystems right now, one that exists on Quest, one that exists on PC, and they're trying to build those tools in real time to make that experience expand from one to the other.
Yeah, I was gonna
uh
say I got a good comment from Biggs here though, because kind of go back ending to what we were talking about, screaming kids and social platforms. The kids being there shows the market is heating up. It's a good thing. It's a great thing because it does show we're getting larger user bases, whether they be youth or adult. It still means that there are more heads in VR headsets.
Yeah, and I've seen people mentioning Discord. We've looked at Discord. I've thought about Discord. We've used Discord in the past.
Considered it.
It becomes its own big management issue to try to manage a Discord group. So that's something we're trying to avoid if like something like VRChat is just going to build it in themselves. Anyways, we're trying to figure this out on the fly, and as Don and I have been discussing, there's lots of opportunities for us to keep highlighting these worlds as well as new worlds you let us know about. If you see these worlds covered again in the future, if we repackage the things that Don has already done, please be understanding if you're like one of our regular viewers,
Yes.
because every new time someone pops into this show or pops up onto our channel, we're trying to assume both, regular viewers, people who understand us, are coming back for more, but also trying to constantly say, like, if Aquarius is always going to be news to a lot of people because it's just such a niche place, you're going to constantly be notifying new people coming into our videos and onto our channel. Hey, this is a really wildly beautiful world. If you've got a PC, here's a link to it. So, be understanding when we link to cool worlds we see multiple times or put that video out there in front of multiple people as we try to find out just the right packaging for just getting that out to thousands and thousands of people that this stuff is cool.
Okay. So
We
just
ready to
looking through
move on to
comments.
Batman here yet?
I think we are. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about it all day, but just wanted to make sure we didn't have any other comments
Big's
here.
Big saying the eternal September of XR might be the 3S. Yes, we have been in the eternal September. So that let's for those
Yeah,
who
well,
aren't
let's
familiar with the
talk about that for
concept.
a minute.
Yeah, for people who aren't familiar with that concept, the idea is that every September, over the history of personal computing, you'd have a new generation of people come in and learn to use the internet. So, like, if you went over back to the '90s, you would get this new wave of people that uh, would come online and use your services, and it would be like a new generation coming in each time. I think about this a lot, Don. Like, the internet for you at your age was completely different from the
Oh, it
internet
was.
I experienced at my age, and the
I
internet that
started I
our
started with
commenters.
BBS, like literally dialing into CompuServe when there was no internet. You dialed into a BBS and you actually did the war games thing where you dialed the phone and
Hmm.
put it in the cups.
Yep,
So
and it's the same things people did with those bulletin board systems back in the '80s. People are doing with VR
telnet.
chat and stuff today. It's just you're embodied. You're embodied now, and that is the internet is full. Go away. No, the internet is not full. I like the name of the new book about Twitter called Character Limit. That is such
Yes.
a great title because now if you go on Twitter, it is filled with so many bots.
Oh
They've
God.
reached a limit on how many people they can have on it.
Don't get me started.
But I love this. This comment is just so important to bring up, and I love our comments. The Eternal September. What if you're in our audience right now, You are now the veterans of the VR industry. That's my takeaway there. You are the
Congratulations.
experts. You've got your badge. You can put it on your lapel, because what you're going to encounter is the Eternal September, the new class of XR VR headset owners who are going to discover Super Hot, Job Simulator, Pistol Whip, Walkabout Mini Golf, all the games that you and our audience know and love. You are now the expert for the new generation that's coming in. And one of the games they are going to want to know about first on their list
Oh, yes.
is Batman Arkham Shadow. Batman Arkham Shadow. Don, tell us about your experience here.
Oh man, Ian. Okay. So, all right. Here it is. I have been chomping at the bit for weeks to be able to talk about this, and the embargo is finally lifted. You guys hopefully have already read our firsthand impressions article that dropped this morning on the site. But to recap everything here, it was a great trip out to Meta's Bellevue, Washington offices where I got to meet the Camouflage team in person. Great group of guys, the Ryans, and just loved hanging out with them. So my day there started with a really detailed pre-demo presentation where we got a chance to look at the new Gamescom trailer, which has now been premiered, but it was the first time I had seen it, and it was the first time I had seen actual gameplay from Arkham Shadow. So, really excited to kind of get through that presentation and get down to the demo. So, once that was over and we got down to the demo, I actually was expecting this to be, and from going to events, the typical, all right, here we're going to put you in a headset for 5 or 10 minutes and kind of show you some curated stuff that we want you to see because that's normally what influencers and press get at these demos. So what blew me away was when they handed me the headset and said, all right, Don, here you go. We're going to let you play an entire level of the game, and you're probably going to be in the headset for about 45 minutes. I personally was actually in the headset for about an hour and a half because I really took my time, and they were very accommodating to let me just look at every little nook and cranny that I could. So what I saw in there absolutely blew me away. So the level that I got to play was the sewers, and it was just everything that you imagine a sewer system in Gotham to be, just dark and gritty and dank. And so in the sewer, the Rat King has taken some GCBD officers hostage, and I'm down there and I'm using my tools to try to find and rescue them. So everything about this game, I'm going to tell you right here, screams atmosphere. I mean, this is probably one of the most atmospheric games I have ever played. Little wisps of steam, little droplets of water. Now, granted, I've just seen the sewers, so I can't speak to, more of the bigger open areas of the game. But in this level, they nailed all of it. And I think one of the things that really, really stood out to me, and I guess it made sense because we were in that echoey kind of enclosed area of a sewer, was it was the first time I got to experience Meta's new acoustic audio SDK and the ray tracing. And every little drop of water, scurrying of rats off in the distance, it actually took on more of a realistic sound with those ambient effects than I'd ever heard in a game. And it did something kind of magical. I mean, sound is a huge factor when it comes to immersion, or for me at least it is. So hearing those proper audio cues took me deeper down the bat hole, the rabbit hole, whatever you want to call it.
The rat hole.
Yeah, the rat hole. The rat hole. There we go. Than I had ever been before. So the graphics in the game are, as you expect, good, and it feels very smooth. But I was really interested to find out that it felt very smooth at 72 hertz. I did ask Camouflage if they were going to get this game up to that 90 hertz threshold, 120 even. They said nope, not going to happen. This one, they really actually built the game around 72 so that they could have a constant presentation throughout it. Now I do say the graphics were good. Obviously, what I played was a pre-release. It has not been completely finalized and polished. So I did see some, areas that textures looked a little flat. Lighting sometimes seemed a little off. There were some scaling issues. I think the biggest disappointment is when I emerged from the sewers. You actually come out of the sewers at one point at the end of the level, and you end up on the street. It was seeing the bat signal kind of pasted against an almost, I wouldn't say 2D, but kind of somewhat 3D-ish skybox. It just didn't pop for me and give me that expansive feeling that I wanted to feel as I emerged from those sewers, seeing Gotham but below me
Mm,
for the first time. Um, it wasn't a deal breaker. Obviously this is still pre-release. I can't say if or these things will be fixed prior, but I guarantee you it's something that Camouflage took my notes and is working
mm,
on. So another thing that really stood out to me was the voice acting. The voice acting is every bit what you expect it to be, from the previous Arkham games or any of the comics. Having Alfred in my ear was great. The guy in the chair effect was just phenomenal as he's kind of guiding me through. It didn't feel like the typical annoying sidekick that you get in a lot of games where after a while you just really want to turn that voice in your ear off, because this is Alfred. It really helped to connect me and make me feel more like I was part of Batman's world. And part of that also was the fact that they used the what we're now, I guess, referring to, or what Camouflage referred to as the Half-Life Alex or Half-Life style cinematics, in the fact that the game never really pulls you out of the action or the immersion of the narrative. So you're walking through, people are having conversations, you're walking up on them. I mean, it's just that also kind of adds to that magic that you're really present in this world. And then the gadgets. So the gadgets were like super cool. Didn't get to play with a lot of them in this level, but the one that really stood out to me was the detective mode. So very similar to the other Arkham game that we had. You can reach up, tap on your temple. Oops, and I just did that with my headset and forgot I had tap, and we came out of the studio for a second. But you can reach up and tap on your temple, and it activates this almost like holographic mesh where you can kind of see clues. But the best part of that was when enemies are hidden behind surfaces, you get to see them as this skeletal mesh and kind of plan out your attacks. Now, attacks is where, for me personally, and I'm going to say for me personally, things kind of started to go off the rails. And let me explain a little bit. I know I'm kind of getting long-winded here, but I'm pretty sure this is something people are going to want to hear about. So the fighting for me was a mixed bag. All right. It was very intense, but the fact that they brought the fighting style over from the 2D Arkham games, I knew it was coming, but it was a little jarring when I started doing the dance, so to speak. So it's heavily scripted, and it's literally you're doing this detecting and exploring, and then you come across somebody and you got to fight, and now it almost turns into a rhythm game. And that kind of took me out of it for a minute. And it's like I was so deeply immersed, and I'm just feeling Batman, I'm feeling every bit the Dark Knight, and then combat happens and it's like everything stops. It's like, now, okay, punch here, punch forward, uppercut, slam the guy. So I was really hoping for almost, I mean, I don't know, more like a Batman simulator in a way, or at least a mode where you could turn the visual reticles off. I kind of joked about that with Camouflage. They said, unfortunately, the fighting is baked into the game, so that's not something that can be changed. But if they did, they would call it Dawn mode, so for full immersion. But that really, like I said, it was just the one thing about the game that it just, I don't know, I
S-
wanted to fight the way that I wanted to fight. So
So yeah, talk to me about QuickTime events. Does it feel like a QuickTime
it
event from
does.
a
Yeah,
flat
it
screen
it
game?
does. Yeah, it does. exactly. I mean, that's exactly the level of feeling that I got in there. So,
That does feel the opposite of kind of embodiment, right? Like,
mhm.
do what you want on your pace is kind of the feeling
Well,
you I would imagine I would want to have as Batman, but
yeah, and well, in VR games in general. I mean, I'm the type of player that when I play a game, especially a license that is near and dear to me. I mean, Batman. I mean, and who doesn't want to be Batman? So I want to be that character. I want to virtually live this story and become a part of it. And when a developer takes my choices away as a player, that's when I hit a big disconnect and all of that immersion just goes right out the window.
mm. And look, Until You Fall. Have you played Until You
I
Fall, and
did,
how does it
yes.
compare?
I mean, it's similar, but I don't know. I just, yeah, I just, sorry, I'm hung up on the combat here.
We'll see.
So it's
We'll see
not
how it
bad.
lands, because it might be like you did a really good job in your write up of pointing out that this is what people kind of expect in
It
an
is.
Arkham game, right? Like, so
And they
seeing
did a
that
wonderful
realized.
job bringing it over. I mean, it is so true and faithful to the 2D Arkham games. I mean, so if you're a fan of those games, you're really going to be like, oh, cool, I get this already. But if you're coming into it just as a hardcore VR enthusiast, it's gonna throw I think it's gonna throw some people for a loop. I think it's gonna be kind of a 50-50 mix. You're gonna have people like me who really just want to just wail at it and go at the combat at their own pace and just kind of do their own thing. And then you're gonna have other people that like, okay, well, I like the rhythm, I like the scripting, I like the flow that this makes the combat feel. To me, though, one thing that it really happened is it made me tired really quick. And I mean, I'm not the best shaped guy in the world. I mean, I'm kind of out of shape, older, kind of heavy set, but it was like missing those punches. It penalizes you big time, and I'm constantly losing fights and having to start them over. So
Mm.
it's like I'm having to do the same fight sequence 2 and 3 times just to move forward because I can't keep my punches in the rhythm.
So when
Um,
you so when you have something like 72 hertz as a standard throughout the entire experience, so they're going to try to hit that frame rate throughout everything. How do they decrease difficulty with uh, with something like this? So that this has a big relationship to replayability, because one of the one of the best ways to increase the difficulty of a game is to throw 6 more enemies into your path, but you can't necessarily do that if you're performance constrained by your 72 hertz.
I,
So we're gonna see how this feels. This is a
mhm.
very, even though you were really good about pointing out 45 minutes, that's still a small slice of a very
Oh, it
large
is.
game.
It
We're
is.
gonna have to get more time into it and see how it feels. We experienced this a little bit with Asgard's Wrath 2 hitting late last year. Uh, our review is infamous at this point, I guess,
A little
for
bit.
for people representing people who uh, were bored by this repetitiveness of
Mhm.
going across a desert and doing the same thing everywhere you go, with the sparse landscape constantly in front of you, and this old game method of traditional games, like the try to give you the open things you do in an open world game, but in VR. We just had the first MMO in VR shut down
Yes, we did.
completely. Just walked away from this idea of this massive multiplayer online game.
I
They
think they
tried
just put
everything
out
they
their
possibly
last
could.
update today, didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing, like you take the wrong lessons away from these things. You just assume games don't work in VR. But I think the lessons are that certain game mechanics can just be absolutely grating in the wrong context,
The
like the
wrong setting.
wrong,
Yeah.
yeah, you do the wrong setting, certain game mechanics just don't work right. So we're going to have to see how Batman holds up over a full playthrough. And I think our audience, like, I loved how excited everyone was. Like, Don, we spent a lot of time talking about this combat. You were still Batman, right? Like,
I
it's
was still
still
Batman. No,
delivered.
and that's what I was kind of getting to is that look, the combat for me wasn't a deal breaker in any way, shape, or form. It's just not what I expected, and it's not my personal preferred play method. Is it going to stop me from playing this beautiful, amazing game that Camouflage and Meta have given us? Hell no. Oh no, I am chomping at the bit. I cannot wait to see more of the characters, more of the narrative, use more of the gadgets. I mean, I can't wait to become the Dark Knight because I am Batman. I mean, you know.
Seam might have the right way of thinking about this. I like the way the QuickTime events look like a workout, and if
Okay.
I can get a workout without knowing I'm working out, that's a big plus.
That
I
is a
think
big plus.
of the boxing games, and that does feel like a workout. Yeah, that's a really great way of thinking
Oh,
of it.
absolutely.
Right, that's what Beat Saber and Pistol Whip and all the other rhythm games have done. They've gamified working out
Well,
essentially.
that's how VR has revolutionized practically half of the fitness industry right now. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I ran a VR fitness series on my personal channel a few years ago with my wife, and I literally lost 36 pounds in just 18 weeks doing nothing differently other than coming home from work and playing a physically active VR game for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Changed no diet, changed nothing else, but I lost 36 pounds in 18 weeks.
Yeah.
So gamifying fitness is a huge thing. And I see a lot of our commenters are kind of cluing in on that, that this is going to actually be something that people could use for fitness. I think, in fact, we had one that Batman Fitness XR from
Yeah.
Andrew Tech. So,
And Andrew Tech's comment, upload VR game reviews are opinions. We can still like the game. I love Mist and Riven despite Riven's low review
oh,
score.
same.
I was talking about this with Henry Stockdale, who's been handling much of our games coverage uh, this year and just went out to Gamescom. And the Riven is a perfect example to continue this discussion. Until 2 weeks ago, you could not have a video of your favorite TV show, your favorite stream. You could not have a guide floating up in your space on a MetaQuest headset while exploring Riven. Well, that that's lonely as heck.
Oh, yeah.
That's that's 10 plus hours where the only thing around you is this desolate landscape with very, with just pretty lights and gadgets around you. It's lonely. It is isolating in the purest sense of the term. But now you could pull up your Discord window, you can pull up your YouTube window, and you can have it playing in the background, and you could call that brain rot, or you could call it, passing the time. But it completely changes the setting for so many of these experiences. It changes, like, yeah. So we've got we're gonna wait. We thank you for respecting individual opinions and understanding that
Oh,
everyone
yes.
has their own opinion, and we love hearing your opinions and hearing how different they are from our own. It's what makes us so interesting to discuss. But we have to also respect the idea that these platforms have been so darn restrictive
Oh,
at
big time.
every single path because they have to build out, they don't want to give away things to their competitors. They want to build out things that only serve themselves. And so you've got Steam building products that serve Steam. You've got Meta building products that serve Meta, and Sony building products that serve Sony. And at the core of this all, like, you want to have multiple screens up in VR. You want to have your friends from Discord. You want to be able to bring them along and share your view as you go on this journey. You want to get tips from your Twitch chat. Like, none of these things are easy to do. And only in the last few weeks, as Meta has gotten its act together in response to what Apple has shipped, have we started seeing some of these restrictions come off. And it changes our understanding of a lot of games. If you were going and looking at Riven with the mindset that someone has to go and spend dozens of hours here completely cut off from everyone, that's a different day and age than it is now, that you
Oh,
can
big
have
time. I
some
mean, yeah, it
accompaniment.
was so isolating. And now with just having that new ability has opened up the world in a way, inside the world. So
Yep. I'm looking at the comments
I am
here.
too.
Anything interesting we should call out here?
I'm looking
Harley Quinn's
here. A lot of
Jazzercise
people
DLC.
talking
I
about the
would love to do
fitness.
Jazzercise with Harley Quinn. That would be fun. Get
That would
get
be
Harley Quinn into Supernatural. I'm ready.
Oh, wow, that would be great. Okay, I do like a Puck DCFC here. The Batcave better be a home space at launch. I still love the Lord of the Rings home space that they did for that tie-in. So yes, I would love to see a Batcave home space come out from Meta, like a really high detailed one.
Yep, definitely has to be there. But again, it's one of those things we saw in our comments, even right before we came out on the show. The news was hitting that Meta was shutting down its Spark
Yeah.
platform. If you go watch the AMA from Andrew Bosworth that he recently did, he specifically says that about every 6 months, Meta changes its plans. And I
Mhm.
think that is such a telling comment. Can you imagine working at a company where every 6 months the CEO and the chief technology officer comes around to all the managers in the team and says, wrong direction, everybody switch direction. You're going at this now. You're going at this now. I think that's what it's been like to work at Meta. And there are certain people that I think probably thrive on that working at Meta. And then also there's us, our viewers, who, right, just last year or the year before, I can't even remember now, they're talking about augments and the system of mixed reality tools. Well, Meta has to get all of its platforms in
Mhm.
order to get these features out to the public at large, and it's required them shutting down efforts that good, devs have put good hours into. And I guess Spark AR was one of them to get the axe now as Meta tries to align everything in preparation for the future. We still have Google out there. We're waiting to
Yeah.
see what Google does, how much Google will show off. But I don't think it's going to go out on a limb here to imagine both Google and Meta trying their darndest here in the next few months to lure partners, lure developers, and lure gamers into their ecosystems and convince them that their headsets are the future ones to
Oh,
buy.
I can totally see that happening.
Anything to call out before we close out
No,
this show?
just looking through, making one last now Biggs did actually bring up one thing that I did not mention in the Batman piece, so I do want to bring that up. He says it's interesting that you have helmet elements in Batman, like the HUD elements. I bet that helps with sim sickness, and it actually I could see that. I personally don't get sim sick, but yes, having those HUD elements, there are also visual cues throughout the game as well. Like when you're sprinting, it does the comic book style where you see the streaks come across your peripheral vision. So it looks like camouflage definitely took those kinds of things into consideration with Batman and added some things in there for comfort. So
He's not wearing hockey pads. I love everyone quoting all the Batmans in their voice. That's
uh
that's the thing that really struck me about
yes,
our comments here. Everyone was saying, "I am Batman." Everyone, did you during your demo like
I did.
feel it come out of your mouth?
I did. I know I actually intentionally did it, a few times just because, like I role play. Like I said, I'm like walking through there and I'm role playing and I walk up to these guys, I'm about to kick their butt and I go, I am Batman. And then I swoop on them. But like I said a couple of weeks ago when we were like teasing and previewing Batman when we saw the first trailer, it's like I would love it if they would have just activated the mic and put it in the game, man. Make it to where some point in the game I have to utter that phrase or, you know.
Well, it's one of those like I love the urban myth, right? That if you press the B button on your controller, you get like extra your
Uh,
pokeball catch is more effective, or
yeah.
maybe your move does a little more power. It would be amazing if, right, you say, if the computer recognizes you saying I am Batman, it gives you like 1% more
Yeah.
power to your
That's what
punch,
I'm
right?
saying. It's like
Just something small
I
and
love
just a
it when
little bit more.
I love it when devs play with things like that, like playing with the mic. It just little things like that that amp it up. And so, just real quick, I guess we're getting a couple more questions here. Ryan B's asking, how did the cape stun work? I keep hearing about that. Unfortunately, that was not something I could do in the level that I was playing, or I didn't know how to do it. So, but again, keep your eyes peeled to uploadvr.com as we start ramping closer to launch. I'm sure we will have more coverage of Batman. And of course, after the game is out, we will have a complete, in depth, full review for you. So,
Yeah. So a lot of excitement out there. We are very curious to see how this game lands. That is coming from Camouflage, a very talented studio that built Iron Man VR, one of these games that is kind of the landmark now in space, or in time, as the experience to give
Hmm.
you to embody you as a superhero. If you want to know what it's like to be Tony Stark, Iron Man, convert from his non-superhero self to his superhero self and everything in between, that is the experience to do it. You can go get that on PSVR 1, and you can get it on Quest headsets.
Awesome game.
And then Camouflage got bought by Meta, and they were already working on this Batman game now. Batman is about to come out on Quest headsets. Everyone is excited to say, I am Batman. What's the comment there?
No, it's a poll. Who is Batman? I am Batman. Ian is Batman.
I like
No,
it. We
no.
got 9 votes there working
But what
towards
about
that.
Don as
Yeah.
Batman?
I can't wait to
I
see
was
the
Batman.
I have. All right, so don't get me started down a new path right here at the end of the show. I still want to ask David. I got to get out of David over on the other podcast what he thinks is the ultimate potential of virtual reality. I'm going to get that out of Don at
Oh,
some point.
and I
I don't
forgot
know
to
if
say
you've ever been.
skeletal. I was gonna say skeletal when I was talking about the mesh, but just for that, just kidding.
I got 2 votes saying that I am
Don is the
Batman.
law. Yeah, right,
Oh man, now I want to. Now I want
right.
that game. What
I
is it?
know, I
Judge
know.
Dredd. Judge Dredd game with
Oh,
slow motion, tossing people off of that mega
oh,
building.
with like
Oh
bullet time.
man.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh wow. All
Oh, that
right,
would be so
let's
good.
wrap
All right,
this up. We have
we
a
got to.
very busy couple weeks coming up here. Thank you to Don for going and checking out Batman Arkham Shadow. Thank you to Beck out there for handling the show for us. Thank you to our audience for tuning in, and our members for supporting our work directly. It means an enormous amount to us. Keeps us going to know that we've got direct support from so many out there, keeping us going, helping us answer those questions for you. Marcellus Wilson, Ryan, thank you so much to our viewers, and thank you to Gamertag for tuning in this week,
Yeah,
and everyone
Gamertag
else.
PD. Yeah.
We'll see you in the future.